right, guys, suspending crankbaits. There's some few options out here. There's the Triple D. This is from ERC Drifter. This is the Livingston Lures Rachel. And this is the Joe Bucher Suspending Depth Raider. So we're going to take a look at these and show you how to catch more muskies. Now, the first thing I'm going to do with these suspending jerkbaits, and I just said it, I already gave the word away. They're suspending crankbaits, but we're going to fish them like jerkbaits, okay? This is a different methodology. This is really good when you got mixed signals from fish. I'm going to show you a bunch of tricks. But the first thing I'm going to do with each of these baits is make sure they have a big split ring. So I've got my trusty box of split rings from the Musky Shop here. And the Bucher does not have one out of the box. And for these tactics, I want a split ring. It will become apparent as we get fish in here. But I want to put a split ring on all these guys. This is a number 6. So like a number 6 or a number 7 is going to allow for this bait to have the best action. There's one already on the Livingston there. So I'm going to put one on the Triple D. These are all marketed as suspending crankbaits, but I said it before, we're going to treat these like jerkbaits. So they have some crankbait properties, but we're going to focus on their jerkbait properties. So I've got those guys rigged up. The next thing I want to do, as far as tactically, is check these baits out before I start fishing. You know, this is a little homework you can do. You maybe get these dialed in before you get on the water. So I'll grab this Triple D. And I have a 12-inch, 130-pound Musky Shop fluorocarbon leader with a big swivel. The reason I like the swivel is what we're going to try to get out of these baits action-wise. It's important to have a flexible leader. You can get away with a hard, like a straight leader in this scenario, but I like a flexi leader for this kind of fishing. So I'm going to hop up here. And the first thing I'm going to do is simply take this bait, it's brand new out of the pack, reel it down, and see what it does, right? And if you want to check it out in the water there, you can probably see as this bait comes in, that one has a really slow rise, right? It's rising, but it's rising ever so subtly. So what I want is maximum suspension. I want this thing to stop and stay where I put it. These baits are built perfectly. There's nothing wrong with it, but if we really want to get tactical and take it further, storm suspend dots are very handy to have. So I'm going to take these. These are 80 removable lead dots here. Get these out of here. I'm going to doctor this bait just to tweak where I want no rise out of it, right? They sell strips of these and they sell these dots. We'll try to get a dot off here. Sometimes that can be tricky. So I'm going to come to the bait and add up under the lip is where I kind of like to start with them. Add one little dot there, and I'm going to break out the strips here. They seem to be a little easier to work with in my opinion. And you can use plumber's tape, things of that nature, but I really like the adhesive level that we have on the storm dots and strips we have at the shop. So all I'm trying to do is focus on getting this thing perfectly naturally buoyant or neutrally buoyant, right? So no real science to it. I don't want to load strips or spots, front load or back load or anything like that. But we got a couple on there. Let's see if it slows it. Take it down. Yep, that is just on the cusp of where I want it to be. Let's go with one more strip. Okay, so all I'm doing is trying to tweak this bait just a bit here. So I'm going to grab just one more strip of this and go, just right behind that guy. That seemed to be really working. Maybe he's going to be there. Now we're running the risk of making this a sinking bait, which we don't want to do. So we're just going to go, is that setting where it is? Yeah, she's sitting where we want her, not moving anywhere. That thing where if I stop it high in the water column, low in the water column, it is going to stick and stay right where I want her. So dial these baits in, you can get them even more deadly in my opinion for this hybrid jerkbait fishing I'm about to show you. The same thing can be said just checking out whether it be a Bucher or whether it be the Rachel from Livingston. I want to make sure that these do this in lieu of that process, doing the same thing. If you find a bait that sinks ever so slowly, that becomes problematic. You go, well, it's easy to add weight. How do we add weight, but how do we take away weight? That's problematic. What you have to do, and what I'll do in a hurry with those baits, is just essentially look at the split rings on the hooks, right? Let me see, and I doubt this one, I'm not gonna say it's gonna sink or anything of that nature, but if it's not suspending perfectly, right, and I can't get that, and it seems like it's slow falling, like super slow falling, reducing your split rings is a place to start, right? I've gone to the extreme. If you could clip one tine off of a hook, you know, rarely are you going to get this tine the way the hook lays back. You can cut one off and reduce whatever weight you can if you got one that slightly sinks. But I feel pretty good about this Triple D being dialed in. So I'm going to hop up here at the front of the boat and show you what's going on. So we got a boat here that's working. When should we do this? This bait's going to stick and stay exactly where I want it. So when is this effective? This is one of the most deadly things I've seen for following fish, right? If you've got a muskie that's coming, he keeps following. It's happened to us all. This is deadly, this total suspension. When you're dealing with moderate conditions, you know, we had hot fish in the morning on bucktails, or, you know, we're looking for a midday bite, or if you're targeting rocks, say reefs and rock points and things of that in Canada, this is deadly because it allows for a jerkbait presentation. We have total control of the depth, and we have total control of the retrieval speed. I think this is an important thing to add to your repertoire on the water, especially if you're fishing big chop. So I'm going to treat this like a jerkbait, like a glide bait, more than a crankbait. And if you've ever fished a Canadian Shield lake or a big Minnesota lake, it's hard to work a glide bait the right way, right? It's hard to get them down at depth. You're dealing with some serious chop. So this gives you an option. So what I'm going to do with the retrieve most of the time with this guy, throw him out, obviously on your cast. And I know that the running depth on this crankbait, say like the Triple D, it's going to go down to about 6 feet. So I'm going to start the retrieve most times with either a rip to get it at depth, or reel down quickly, get it at depth, and that's where I stop treating it like a crankbait, right? So I'll get up here to this rock bar. So I've reeled that thing in, got it down to depth, and now I can start what I'll call the jerkbait retrieve. So let's get up here. There's a rock bar that's a really good example of the kind of stuff we want to fish with this. And as you can see off the shoreline, as we're coming here, we have a nice rock bar that extends out structurally off this. So you got a little bit of a point and rock that extends out. Perfect place for a muskie to hide, especially if they're negative and neutral. Coming out like a jerkbait crankbait retrieve is going to do it. So let me get up here and get us positioned. We throw him out. I'm going to rip it down, ripping that bait down to depth. Now I'm going to treat this like a glide bait. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. Now what's deadly about this, if we've gotten our suspension right, we've paid attention to getting this bait being perfectly neutral buoyancy, or having perfect neutral buoyancy in the water. Every time we pause, that bait is just sitting there, motionless, right? Let's say we're fishing this edge, this muskie keeps coming out, keeps coming out, keeps coming out. We can't get him in the figure eight. We can't get him in the figure eight. What are we gonna do? We can slow him down. We can keep him away from the boat and keep him under the water, keep his head down so he's not gonna get spooked and pull in a negative neutral fish. So what I'm looking for with this on a short little cast is a little bit of slack in my retrieve, right? So if I have a little slack in my retrieve, I'm getting that side to side glider-ish kick. Now this thing is not gonna walk the dog side to side, right? But it is going to pop to the left, pop to the right, presenting itself. So in a perfect world, we've reeled him down. He stops, you snap the bait, right? This is why I want the big split ring. The bait snaps and it goes boom, and it hangs like this. And it sets broadside. You snap it again, boom, it snaps like this. We've got this bait going left, right, hanging around. You can see, I'll try to do it for the cameraman here. I am popping that bait and I'm actually getting side-to-side action out of him, right? I'm getting a side-to-side walk out of this bait. Try to keep it high here for you. So if I pop him this way, I'm gonna get him on the boom, right? I want that thing to dart and juke and hang out there side to side. It's presenting its side. presenting its side, right? That's an awesome target for a muskie. Awesome target. So if we're struggling with glide bait, we're struggling to get a bite on a glide bait fish, because if they don't want that bait sinking, right? And when you let it sink, he doesn't engage and hit it. And they don't want to dive and rise, it's coming up. Sometimes that neutral buoyancy is super important. So throw this guy out. Like I said, we're gonna hit this rock bar. I've ripped it down to depth a little bit. Pop, pop, glide bait. Give it a pause. Pop, pop, give it a pause. Pop, pop, pause, right? Treating it like a glide bait. Slack line twitching it, and that thing is just hanging deadly. Now, we get close to the boat, what we can do is rip him real fast and just let it hang, right? You've got all the time in the world. This bait's not gonna go up, this bait is not gonna go down. So, from dialing it in, we can have as much hang time as we want. Again, that last section, if I get, you know, I'm on my last third of my cast. You know, something really aggressive, just let it hang. Make that fish look at it, right? What I love, that's a great trick, and again, the hypothetical, that's a real scenario we all deal with. That pesky muskie, we want to catch him so bad, but he won't hit. I'll tell you, come into that area, come into that spot, throw that bait, and like I said, we work the retrieve with our typical glide thing here, right? We've worked it. Big pauses. Big pauses. Worked it in, okay? That last third, something aggressive. Make him look at it. Really extend it, and then one. And make that thing move again, and you're gonna be shocked. They light it up. This is such a great trick for those fish that are being pesky or won't hit you straight out. So once they've shown themselves, and you've got a fish, you know you've got something to work with there. It's a great follow-up. You know, as far as that routine, the hybrid jerk bait, twitch bait, pseudo glide, these suspending baits do it. So whether it be the Bucher or the Rachel or whatever, I'll grab another one here. See what the Bucher has to offer here today. Little rounder profile on this, and I like with the Bucher, you rarely think about the Bucher suspender in the conversation with Triple D's. What I like about this is the rounder profile, and we get a little bit more roll on the thing. So how do I make a decision between the two? A lot of times that's just going to be based on size of forage and time of year. But if I want the really hard snap, the left right out of a suspending jerk bait, I'm going to go with the Triple D. With the Bucher, you get a little more machine gun out of it. You'll feel it in the rod. I can get the left to right, right? And it's kind of, this one, we talked about it, that one's got a little fall to him, okay? Just the tiniest little fall. So, what I can do on this one, got a little fall in that one. Let's see. Come in here. Now she's cooking. Right where I want her. You can see it's just that small adjustment. I'm never worried about losing one hook tying on a middle hook. That's where I'm going to reduce the weight if I got a slow sink. So the feel of the Bucher is a little bit more, like I said, machine gunning on the cast, a little more surge. I'll use this more so in the winter and the fall than the Triple D. It just seems to work better for me that time frame, because you get a big thump, a big surge, and then the pause seems to work. But the same motif really works for me with this, which is get it down to depth, pop, pop, like I said. Same retrieve works, right? The Bucher bait, I like this bait for the hitting of rocks, intentional rock hits, and then hang, right? So what we can do with this, it's a slightly different motif, is get over to these rocks, throw this guy, rip him down. I just made contact. The second I make contact, guess what I'm doing? I'm stopping. Into the rocks, stop. Let it hang, right? Into the rocks, stop. Make it hang, right? That is deadly in your cold fronts and in your scenarios where we're actually trying to root these things out of, say, Canadian rocks, or, you know, you got a rock bar here, and obviously we got a jet skier getting the fish. Very excited for us. So anyway, I'm gonna throw this bait again into the rocks. Touched them, let it hang. Into the rocks, touched them, let it hang. Machine gun that bait down, it's going, brrr, stop, right? Boom, stop. So we're ripping that bait, kind of like we'd rip a bulldog or rubber. We're not worried about it hanging in the rocks per se, because it's neutrally buoyant. We're not worried about that. And if you feel like you've gotten this bait jammed up in some rocks, well, guess what? Pop them straight up. I'll try to do it here real quick intentionally. As we get into, like, say, the craggy or the crustier rocks on a bar, I've ripped it down, let it pause. Ripped it down, let it pause. Boom, I hit a big rock and you feel like you hit the backside of it, up, rip it up. You can work that bait over it, right? So I'll show you visually here what we're looking for out of the Bucher for the suspending crankbait jerkbait motif, sort of on the deck of the boat here. My goal would be with this bait to utilize this really aggressive lip, and he goes down, bam. When I feel that, I'm stopping. Now this bait is going to be right there. He's going to have impact and kickback. Once you make that impact, so we're going to come down, pretend these are rocks, impact. You let off the pressure, that bait is hanging right off the rock. What does that resemble? That resembles feeding smallmouth, right? And other foraging fish. I'm not saying with the surge, but they're coming down, oh, there's a crayfish, boom, eat it. They're susceptible, right? This is presenting itself as a heavily susceptible prey item. Its guard is down, right? Not only does the direct contact with the rocks call fish in as far as noise and things of that nature, this thing's looking like it's foraging, it's feeding, it's not on guard, it's actually predating itself. And that's kind of what I think about it, like, okay, what would a fish be doing? We're trying to get the situation to open up there. So it's a different take. You can do the same thing with the suspending Bucher as you can as the Triple D. But again, I like the rolly nature of this bait more. To bang into the rocks, stop, and let it hang. So let's go down this shoreline a little bit. It's not all just rocks with these baits. And nothing makes me sicker when I'm out musky fishing than people having a good time on jet skis. So anyway, we'll get repositioned over here. I'll go down this shoreline. So let's grab, say, the Rachel. They're all good. I don't have a favorite over either other. The Rachel and the Triple D are pretty similar. What else can we apply this for? Well, tactically, what I really like to do with this, the suspending crankbait jerkbait motif, is target cribs, okay? This is the next element I want you to add to your game. Where are some cribs? Well, the lake we're on right now, there's some cribs down here, but theoretically, let's say on this shoreline, Jay, if you'll pan over here, look at that. Let's say there's a line of cribs over here. How are we going to target these cribs if we know muskies are holding deep? Muskies are holding deep, and there's forage all over top of these cribs, and they won't eat a big rubber bait, and they won't hit the troll. How are we going to finesse fish cribs, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have those cribs marked. I'm going to know where they're at, right? Bring that Rachel down. Bring that Triple D down. Bring that crankbait down there, and then let it hang, right? Right over those cribs. Jerkbait, let it hang. Big extended pauses. You can pause these things, but you know, if they're perfectly weighted, they should be able to hang there for as long until they fall apart, right? Until the point, if they're truly neutrally buoyant, they should just hang there forever. So we get over top of that crib, let it hang, let it sit. The bucktails didn't work, the bulldogs didn't work, the trolling didn't work. Stop trying to make a fast application out of it. Bam, bam, right over top of that crib, let it hang. Make them look at it. That is the key to this. Make them look at it. They'll feel the vibration, and then they go, yeah, I'll eat it. It's the dichotomy of speed is what we're trying to overcome. To get serious depth, it often takes weight. right? Well, with these suspending crankbaits, we can take that out of the equation. So we don't have to have a bulldog that's moving fast to keep it off the bottom. We can just make them look at it, and that is the key, right? So when you're faced with fish you just cannot get to convert, right? Bam, let it hang. You can do this with these cribs, you know, over cribs, over timber. I don't care if it's a fish crib or man-made structure. I've done this off of walls of dams, wing walls, things of that nature. If we're positive there's a muskie there, we've engaged with him, we got a shot at him, this is a great follow-up. That will bring me to the next thing I like to do with these baits. I talked about that following fish, right? Put a Triple D on here. I really like these as follow-up to big rubber. Okay, again, I've shown you some stuff where I'm ripping and we're doing some stuff, or some retrieves, where it's almost like a rubber rip across my body. I will have a Triple D or one of the other options lined up and ready to go as a cast back rod for big rubber follows. So if I'm dialed in on a bulldog bite or a Medusa bite, whatever it might be, I'm dialed in on that. I know that I need a Triple D or suspending jerk bait as my cast back ready on the hand. So the scenario would be, come in, you know, pretend we got the bulldog on. He just won't eat it. He come up, he breaks off. Bulldog down, Triple D, right? Boom. Where you think the fish is headed? Rip. Rip. That thing's hanging, right? Ripping it. Really aggressive. Every time I rip it, just stops and then let it hang, right? It doesn't have to be a big pulse, but this is a different vibration profile, and we got a little bit of control, so you get more fish as a rubber follow-up from that. And I really think it's systemic of the pulse, where the bait is not falling. Bulldog's always falling, Medusa's always falling, right? Where you're diving rise, this just hangs. And so if that fish won't convert easily on a big rubber bait, this is what I'm picking up every time. It's a great follow-up to really convert some of those fish. One other thing I'll show you, and one of my favorite tactics for fishing submerged cover and structure, is a hybrid troll with these baits, right? So at times I will actually get one of my trolling rods out, and I'll grab one here real quick. I will grab a trolling rod here. So I know if I need to hit a depth, or I'm getting misses trolling, or I'm just not getting hits at all, when it is down and dirty and we got to put one in the boat. This is my favorite tactics. Why's it got a trolling reel and a casting bait? We'll see. So I can refer to my Musky 360 app, grab my phone out, it'll tell me exactly the trolling length of what we want to hit with the Triple D or any of these baits. So I can refer to that as a rough estimation via line length, right? Or just kind of wing her out there. Because at a certain point, this thing being neutrally buoyant, it's going to, you know, hit its running edge. It can't go any deeper, right? So you can be a little loose and fast with your line length with this. You don't necessarily need a line counter, but I like to kind of know, so this gives me an idea. I got 60 feet out there. I'm going to dial in on structure, actual structure. Let's say we have a rock ledge and it's a cold front or it is winter, and we've got suspended muskies on that, and we can't get them to eat big rubber. We can't get them to eat follow-up presentations. Coming down that edge, hand holding, and jerk trolling these things. So I'm going to surge the boat forward here, rip this bait to depth, and what I'm going to do is surge my motor and stop. Surge that bait and stop. And what you'll find is you're going to get a rhythm where the boats pull, you'll feel it. You're kind of rip trolling this thing forward, and then it's suspending. You can now go down a big piece of structure and essentially have a jerk troll or a suspended jerk troll down an entire edge where this bait is never deviating from that running depth. So if we know muskies are suspended, they're at 10 feet down, we've got a Triple D down there, it's hitting 7 or 8 feet, we're making them look at it. We're jerk trolling down edges, we're jerk trolling down structure, we're jerk trolling down cover. This will also work on outside weed edges. Let's say we have a really good weed edge mapped out and we know competently we can stay on that outside edge. You can come as a follow-up to this and do a handhold troll and contour that weed edge. So let's say that, you know, it comes here and it doglegs out here, so I'm jerk trolling this. I've got complete control of that bait. Every time I lean the rod back, it stopped, right? So it's buoyant, or excuse me, neutrally buoyant right there. It surges forward, it's sticking. Surges forward, sticks, right? That thing just hangs in their face forever. It's deadly when nothing else works. So I'll come in here and say I'm coming on the outside of the weed edge. I can turn this guy, the bait will follow with you, and you can accurately do that. It's a deadly tactic when nothing else works. These baits are specialist baits if you know what you're doing with them. Yes, they will work by throwing them out and turning the handle. But to get the most out of these, you need to start thinking about your Triple Ds, your Joe Bucher suspenders, and your Livingston lure Rachels, you know, as some deadly specific tactical baits. They're just not crankbaits. They're not made just for trolling or just for casting. You can get jerkbait action out of these things that's deadly when muskies are finicky, and it's definitely going to put a big muskie in your net.